Welcome to this afternoon's webinar, which is all about optimizing your quote-to-order workflow. And obviously the intention of that is to take more orders in less time every time. So I'm Andrew Ardron, I'm the CEO of ProspectSoft, and I'll be taking you through a whole load of settings, features, options, which you may know some of, and I'm sure there'll be some you don't know about. And Jess, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone, my name's Jess and I run the marketing here at ProspectSoft. Firstly, thanks for everyone registering for this webinar. If you're watching this live, thanks for taking the time to do so. Just to note, as Andy said at the start, we will be sharing a copy of the slides and the recording with you after the session, so you can watch it back, share it with colleagues and things like that. And thanks for submitting answers to our pre-registration question when you booked your place onto this webinar. We asked you kind of what your top challenges are when turning quotes into orders. And actually the top voted challenge was accurate pricing. Andy is going to try and cover all of these points though during the webinar, including accurate pricing and how you can achieve that. But as we go through, if you do have any kind of more specific questions, please do put those in the chat. There's the chat function which can be found in your Zoom taskbar at the bottom. I'll be keeping an eye on that chat throughout the session whilst Andy's kind of doing his presentation. So we do encourage you to pop questions in there as we go along. So definitely do that. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy. Over to you, Andy, just to take us through that agenda of what's coming up in the session today.
Okay, thanks, Jess.
Okay.
So quite a lot to cover, and I'm going to try and cover all of these items in about 40 minutes and then leave some time for Q&A at the end. I'm just going to give a quick introduction and cover a few concepts which will be important before we get into the details of the quote-to-order workflow. But in terms of the workflow, we'll start with building accurate and profitable quotations and cover things like the pricing. Then we'll get into generating the actual quote documents itself that you send out to your customer. And then I'll be covering a brand new feature, which is all to do with ensuring that you get quote acceptance from your customers, but also the fact that you've recorded that and that you're not getting a woolly quote acceptance. And then we'll talk about processing the order, and there's some updates to that in some recent versions. And the final thing is automated notification emails at the end of that process. And again, that's been updated in the last couple of versions as well. So, very first question is, why would you bother to define a quote to order workflow and not just send out, fairly random quotes? Well, really, one of the key things that you need to do to build any kind of business is create a repeatable, scalable, and profitable sales motion. And if your business is all about sending out quotations and getting orders to customers, then that workflow is essential to that repeatable, scalable, and profitable sales motion. So what we're looking for is to define, implement, and test with a number of iterations, a repeatable quotation and through to order workflow that works, and i.e. works as in gets you sales orders. And then in terms of making it scalable, get everybody working the same way with some enforced or guided consistency, so that everybody has the same types of quotes being sent out, the same processes, and gets consistent process, but then by doing that consistent process gets consistent success. And it's important that, as we start to grow a business, that we create these processes so that if you hire a new member of the team, you can get them quickly up and running. They don't have to be a very expensive hire with vast experience in order to be able to send a quote and get an order. You want ideally to be able to hire the most junior person you can and still have them be consistent and successful with that process. And obviously, when it comes to profitability, we want an efficient admin process that reduces overheads and errors, which are a very expensive bit of quotation and order processing, so that we're reducing the cost per order, and that we're making a maximum profit from that process. So, and if we can get all of that right, obviously we'll get a growing business, but we'll also be delivering a great customer experience, and our staff will be happier. There's nothing worse than sort of frustrations and inefficient processes to make staff grumpy in their day-to-day activities. So before we dive straight into the actual workflow, I just want to kind of give a little introduction to the different types of quotations and the pipelines. Just very briefly, there are a number of types of quotation in Prospect CRM. And what I'm going to show is applicable to all of these. But I think it's important to understand that you can get to the quotation stage by either creating a quotation or a problem, creating an opportunity or a problem first, and starting to work on that opportunity, talking to the customer about what they want, or indeed with a problem and dealing with the customer's problem, and eventually then get to the stage where you need to send out a quotation to the customer. And you can then log that quotation within that opportunity or within a problem. So, I mean, you could have a problem with the customers received the wrong goods, and then you want to send them a quotation. Maybe they actually just ordered the wrong thing, and then you want to send them a quotation where they can reorder the correct items, maybe with a goodwill gesture discount on it or something. So you can create quotations for within opportunities or within problems as part of that wider workflow. Or you can go straight in and create a quotation, which is what I'll be doing during my demo today. Or you can go straight to a sales order. But essentially, in all of those scenarios, the quote-to-order workflow is the same. Even if you're just got a customer on the phone and they're saying, I'm ready to place an order, hopefully at the end of that, they'll say, great, yep, go ahead with that order. But it does happen that at the end of that, they'll then say, oh, can you just send me a confirmation of that so I can get it signed off? Or can you send me a confirmation of that so I can check the pricing before I confirm my order? And so even if your intention is to create a sales order straight from start to finish, you can easily end up having to implement a quotation to order workflow towards the end of that process anyway. So everything I'm going to talk about is applicable in all of those different scenarios. If you are doing a sales opportunity with a quotation within it, or doing a quotation process, you will get involved with pipelines as well. I'm actually not going to get into the details of defining or managing pipelines today. That is a whole webinar on its own. I just really want to give a few secret rules, bits of guidance to pipelines. And my number one rule is really to keep pipelines simple. Too many stages in a pipeline just makes life hard for everybody and tends not to achieve too much. So if you've got complicated processes, you should consider, rather than having lots and lots of steps in your pipeline, consider whether you want to use multiple pipelines so that you can break them down into more specific things rather than having lots of different stages. If you're not reporting on a stage, then I'd question whether you even need that in your pipeline. I've seen a lot of people put pipelines together with the 10 different stages they go through, but if you're not actually going to measure the 4th and the 3rd and the 8th stage, then you don't necessarily even need to record it. If you want to just reduce the number of steps, you can look at sub-statuses. So you can break a status, fairly broad one, like in this example, in sales process, down into a couple of sub statuses to make it a bit more granular. And one thing that you should actually consider as well is if there are some yes, no stages during your sales cycle that aren't necessarily sequential, that go 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't always fit in between 2 and 3, or always between 3 and 4. You can just have a custom field with a toggle of yes, no for recording that some activity was done. So, if in your new business sign-up process, it's essential that you explain to the customer your returns policy, then you could just have a toggle, a custom field that says, yes, I have confirmed the returns policy with the customer before signing them up, rather than necessarily having it at a stage within our sales process. So lots of different options there, which should let you keep a relatively simple pipeline that's not too complicated and doesn't overburden your sales team, while still implementing that repeatable and scalable and profitable process. Okay, so let's move on to the actual quote to order workflow. And the first bit of this is to actually build an accurate quote. And by accurate quote, I mean, let's put the right products on the quote with the right prices, the right quantities, etc. And there's lots of features in the CRM which are intended to help you do these. Not all of these will be applicable to every business, but I really just wanted to give a quick demo of many of these, just to make sure that they're things that you're aware of. And certainly a lot of these are going to be too complicated for us to cover in massive detail in this webinar, otherwise we'll be here for hours and hours and hours. So I won't get into setting up all of these, but I will touch on most of these so that you at least know they exist. And we'll probably look to send out a list of articles at the end of this webinar, so kind of follow up with some training documentation on how to set up some of the more complicated ones in these. So there's lots for me to cover here. I'm actually going to, rather than read these out, I'm going to go for a demo now, and I'll show you some of these as we step through. So first of all, I've now gone to Rachel Green. She's one of the records in our CRM system, and Rachel is just a prospect. She works for Green Traders Limited, and she's a prospect in our system that is looking for a quotation. Now, I'm just going to now go and create a fairly simple quote for Rachel. As you can see, I could create an opportunity and start to manage that opportunity early on and find out what she's looking for. But she's just rung in and she's looking for a quote based on some marketing content that we sent out recently. So I'm going to go straight in and create a quote. Again, if she'd come on and said, "Oh, I've seen your marketing content and I'd love to place an order for some widgets," I could go straight into processing a sales order, which going straight to a sales order is almost like a quote. It's basically a verbal quote, but it skips the pipeline and the work and some of the pipeline workflow that you would go through. So I'm going to go for a quote. As you can see, I can choose my pipeline. I'm just going to go for a quick quote pipeline, just to make this nice and quick. I can give it a description, but I don't have to. It will just get a kind of quote number as a description if I don't. A couple of things I am really keen to emphasize, though, is this tiny little field in the middle called based on, which if you just rush through the screen, you might even not realize it was there, or you might not understand it, what its significance is. This allows me to create a quotation using either a template or copying a previous quotation. So I can search for any quote in the system. So if I know that I've done a similar quote in the past, or I did a quote for this customer last week and they want, or took an order last week and they want to repeat that, I can go and search, find that and copy it. Or if I was doing one of those bigger opportunities and I was giving the customer two different quotes with sort of two different options, I might do my first quote and then copy that for my second and then edit it to create my variation. So this based on kind of covers a number of different scenarios, all of which are designed to try and make your quotation generation more efficient and easier to do. And here you can see that I've actually got a template already set up, which is new coffee sample selection. And if I chose that, it would bring in all the products on that template automatically for this customer. I'm not going to choose that. I'm going to build a quote, but a little bit later on, I'll show you how to turn a quote into a template so that it appears in this drop-down list. Okay, so for the purpose of this, I'm not going to create it from a template. I'm just going to create it all the way through. You can also see that it's multi-currency, but the currency will be defaulted from the customer in the first place. So let's go and create this quotation. You can see I've got a simple pipeline going on here, and I'm going to put in the details of my quote. One other feature that you will have got on that creation window or up here in the details, depending on the system you're integrated with, is the ability to select a price list as well. Now, that's a relatively new feature to actually choose the price list. Obviously, the price list is defaulted based on the customer and how that customer is set up. But in the latest versions with some of the inventory management systems, you can actually choose a different price list, or if you're quoting a prospect who hasn't got an account set up, you can choose the price list that you want for the quotation. Now, that is currently being rolled out to different integrations as we speak. So over the next few versions, you may see that appear for your integration. If you haven't seen it for your integration, you can go to Ideas Portal and log a request for that, or vote on it, and make sure you put your system into that, and then you'll get notified when it gets released. So I'm just going to start searching for some products in a second, but just before I do, I should mention the ability to drag and drop a CSV. So this is a great feature. If this customer sends you a CSV file, or if you've got some templates kind of built as CSVs outside of the system rather than using the template system within the CRM, you can literally drag and drop those in and it will create a bunch of products for your system. If you don't know what that CSV should look like, you can also go to the menu, and if I choose imports from CSV, I can actually download an example, and that will create an example for me that I can use. But if I'm going to go through a kind of traditional process of adding products, obviously I can search, but as soon as I go into the search, it does offer some products to me. So just to explain, because this customer is a prospect and they've never bought anything in the past, it's offering me the most frequently ordered items. So these are the items that other customers have most frequently ordered, which hopefully will be the most likely things for me to want to put on this quotation. If this was an existing customer with some buying history, it would start to show me the items this customer has ordered most frequently. Just trying to be as helpful as possible. Obviously, I can start to search by searching for products and just typing them in here, and it will search through our product file and find for me the different products. I can also do a kind of more advanced search if I click on the search at the bottom, and that will open a search box where I can find multiple items, and actually I can add multiple items to my quotation in one go. So I can add 5 of these and 3 of these, etc., and add them all in one go, and then I can search for more items and add them, or I can kind of just add and close, which just adds a few products and then closes the window. Let me just get rid of that for a second. If I, however, just go through this process, and I'm going to add a standard table, this product has been set up with some upsell options, and there's a variety of upsell options. sort of must-have upgrade products or upsell items. So must-haves are things that you have to have with this product. Upsells are your kind of classic options that if I'm buying a standard table, I might want product A or product B to go with it. You know, these would be things like table wax or some cleaning products that are optional upsells. But you could also configure this so that, you know, you can have upgrade items. So a standard table might upgrade to a premium table or something like that. And there's lots of configuration options around that, all of which will pop up this window where it's recommending that I might upgrade this quotation in some way and therefore increase the value of the quotation when I'm quoting the customer. So I'm quoting for a standard table. I'm going to put product A and product B on as well. And I can change the quantity of those as well. So I'm going to have 2 of product A, whatever that might be, pots of table wax or cleaner or whatever. And it will then automatically add all of those items and group those items together in my quotation. Going to add a different kind of product now. So if I add product C, product C is quite a different product and it's been configured with packs. Now, there's a lot of complexity around different packs. I know that some of the inventory management systems and ERP systems have got their own functionality for packs, some of which we support and some of which we don't, either depending on whether those pack options are supported within the inventory management systems ERP. So I know that, for instance, Sin 7 has got unit of measure. At the moment, that is not available in their API. So there's no way for us to support unit of measure from Sin 7 within the CRM system. We can't, and no other vendor who integrates with with Sin 7 can support that because it's not available in their API. Now, we are obviously in contact with all of the product teams for all of the systems we integrate with. And I know that Sin 7, for instance, are looking at adding that to their API for us in, you know, the not too distant future. And when that becomes available, we'll look at how we might support that. But this pack system is our pack system. It's a multi-level pack system, so you can, for instance, have packs, inners, outers, and pallets, all with different combinations of packs. It won't be suitable for everybody, but it's pretty comprehensive. And because pack C is set up as a product C is set up as a packed item, when I add it to a quote, it then allows me to add these items in different packs. So I can add, if I change this to 20, it knows that that's 2 packs and no individual items. And so it updates my quotation automatically. A couple of other things to mention is that there's also an info panel. So if I click on the little info icon, I can see more detail about the product and this quote line. This info panel is also available in the search window. So if you're searching for products in the full search, you can look at this info panel. And so if there's an existing customer, it will even show me the history of recent purchases of this product, give me more details about this product, etc., the price, the cost price, etc. And if I've got a grouped set of products, obviously I can resequence quote lines by dragging and dropping them with this sort of grab tool here. But if I want to resequence within a sort of group product, I can click on the resequence upsell lines and I can put product B before product A or vice versa. And you can also pin that panel so that you've got that information available on the side. One of the nice things about that panel is it does allow you to edit things like the cost price and things like that, and the price. But I should also show you something you may have discovered or you may not have done. There's a little cog specifically for the quotation table editing here. And this gives you access to making some things editable or not editable within the grid. And you might wonder why we haven't made everything editable. It just means there's more things to tab through if you're tabbing through the lines, more things to click through, and obviously it makes the whole interface a little bit more cluttered if you don't need it. So if you never edit the descriptions of your quote lines, you just put products together with the standard descriptions, then there's no need to be able to edit them. But if you do want to be able to edit them, then you can make them editable, and you can see this has now immediately become editable on my grid. Most people want the ability to edit the price, but if you never do, you can turn that off. Obviously, the quantity is always editable. You can also make the discount editable and the cost price. Now, obviously, you wouldn't normally make the cost price editable because the cost of the product is the cost of the product. But if you're in a trading scenario where you often speak to the supplier to get a better price before you're quoting a customer, then it can be useful to make that editable, etc. So that's the kind of basic adding of products to a quotation. But actually, there's a few more options that I want to just cover off before we move on to the next stage. One is adding description lines. So far I've added lines where there's a specific product already in our product file. But if I want to add something to the quotation where there isn't a product in our product file, one option is to add a description only line. If I do that, I get to add something with a description. This is a product description. And there's no product code because I'm adding just a description only item. And again, I can put a quantity and a price in for this. I'll just get rid of that. If you're wondering why you haven't got that option in this little drop down, that is because a lot of the things that you're seeing here are controlled by some of the system settings. And so if I go to search within the settings, if I search for description only, you can see that you can enable or disable this setting. And if you enable it, you have to attach a product, which is the product that we'll then use for managing anything that any of the additional settings we need in order to generate a complete quotation. So for instance, whether the description only item should be vatable or not vatable, we'll get that from the product that you define. So you need to turn that on in order to get that option. That's available with all of the inventory management systems. The other option I've got is to create a new product, which is not available with every inventory management system or every ERP system. And this allows me to create a new product on the fly as I go through. I should say that the implementation of this varies as well between the different inventory management systems. Sometimes this will, depending on what the API supports, sometimes this will create the product immediately. And sometimes the product will actually only get created when the quotation is processed through to a sales order. And again, I can set up products to be templates for this, or I can search for a product to base this on. You do need to base it on a specific product so that we don't have to ask you for every single setting for that product, like whether it's vatable and everything. And it just makes it easier to create a product by using a template. And then you can give it all your description, your price, etc. And you can create that product and add it to your quotation. The final thing that I can add to my quotation is a group. Now, this is still in preview, and some of the adding a group does make the generation of the quote table, which we'll come to a little, sorry, the quote document, which we'll come to a little bit later on, significantly more complicated. But effectively, I can give this as a let's say if I'm doing a quotation that has got some equipment to go into room 1 and some equipment to go into room 2, then I can give this a title of room 1, and I can add the products that I've created. So I've put on the quotation so far to room 1, and then I can go to put some other products into room 2, and I'll get sectioned quotations generated in my document. And there's lots of options for the output. So I can then show this group with a subtitle. I can show the price column or hide the price column so that the individual items within this group aren't priced, but the total of the group is priced with the subtotal. I can create a new page for this group. I can put it in a new table so that it gets a completely new table for each thing, and then I can actually type something in between them. I can show a separate totals for VAT, etc. Between them. And as I say, that if you're doing quite complex quotes, that can make the quotes a lot easier for your customers to read and digest, which is great. It does add quite a bit more complexity to building the quote and generating a good output document in the end. Okay, so quite a lot of features there. I have skipped through quite a those fairly quickly, and as I say, we'll send out some links at the end following the webinar in terms of how to configure some of those things. But hopefully that gave you a flavour for the range of features that we have got available. One that I didn't demonstrate, but I just wanted to mention because it's not going to be relevant to most people, but it will be relevant for a few of you. Is the relationship between quotation tables and equipment items. There's kind of two types of equipment items within Prospect CRM. So one is if you're renting equipment items. So if you've got some equipment items that you might loan out to people or rent to people for a week or a few days, then you can relate those to a quotation so that I'm going to rent out equipment item 1, 2, 3. And equipment item 5, 6, 7 as part of this quotation. So that's a kind of loan or rental type situation. And there's also the ability to sell equipment items. And then effectively, once the sales process is complete and the customer buys the item, the equipment item gets created and assigned to that customer, so you can then track that equipment item, the serial number, and the future activity related to that equipment item going forward. As I say, really haven't got time to get into that in this webinar. I just wanted to mention that for anybody for whom it might be relevant, and we can follow up later on. Okay, so all we've done so far is look at building the quote table with sort of pricing and discounts and things like that. What we need to move on to now is actually the quote document itself. And again, there's a whole range of features that we might need to look at. So there's lots of different document template types that you might use. So you can use an email template. You can have a Word document, or perhaps more preferable to that is a Word document that's then turned into a PDF before being sent to the customer. And perhaps the ideal combination of those is a simple email cover template with a PDF attachment, which can be automatically attached. Or you can do this as a two-step process so that you can actually amend the Word document on the way through. I should mention that you can also pin common templates, and I'll talk about that. There's lots of options to do with quotation tables, product images, and with the new library feature, there are some new options when you're setting up a template to actually attach library files automatically to an email that's being sent out. So let's have a look at a few of those. So this is the quotation that we've already built. I'm just going to dive straight in and send out this quotation to the customer. So the first thing I can do is I can just click send email from the menu, or I can click on the email here, and this will send an email. I can obviously from here pick any of my templates. But if I just cancel that for a second and go back to the menu, when I'm setting up the template, there's an option to pin it to the menu. And if I do that, I can go straight into that particular template. So rather than send an email and choose the template, I can go straight into sending that particular template, and it will automatically pick that, and it populates it with the text from that template. It populates it now with a PDF attachment, which is one of my library files, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And it attaches a PDF of my quotation document as well, all automatically set up here with a description, which includes the quotation reference. And I can literally just send this now, it'll go straight out to that customer. A couple of things I can obviously do is I can amend the text here. I can't now amend the document, but if I wanted to be able to type into this document and do significant amendments to that first, what I could do is I could generate that, save it, and then generate my email cover, and then I can go and pick any template attachments that I want. So I can pick files from my PC. I can pick other documents that are already attached to this template, to this quotation. So if I wanted to build that more complex proposal in Microsoft Word, make lots of changes to it and then save it, it will then appear in this list. So this will be existing documents attached to this quotation. I can generate a new document. I can pick files from my library, and I can view the attachments list and do different things with it, or amend them as I go. But I'm now just going to quickly send this out, and then we'll have a look at how this is put together in the settings in a second. So obviously it goes through the process of generating those PDFs and sending that out. And if I look in my email inbox, just for a quick refresh, you can see that this has now been sent out, and you can see that it's attached with a PDF, which can include my product images, descriptions, prices, etc. And PDF of my terms and conditions, along with all the text in my email. So I'm definitely not going to get into all the settings for everything, but if I just go to emails and documents and go to my document templates, this particular template is configured with an email, which I can get into the email editor with, and some different settings down here. You can expand this. We'll show you that just to get a bigger screen. So this pin to menu just allows me to make it quick and easy for people to find. And the attached template, so I've chosen another template here. You can just click create and pick another template. And you'll need to, if you want it to come as a PDF, you'll need to then choose convert it to PDF. And if you want to attach something from the library, you can then go and pick a library file here and attach that. Now, within the library itself, when you're adding files to the library, you can relate a library file directly to a product. When you're generating quotations, that currently doesn't do anything. but that is one of the features that we have got plans to build as we continue to build on the library feature that we released a few versions ago, so that you can, for instance, attach a product spec sheet, put that in your library, attach it to a product, and then have that automatically attached to a quotation when you put that product into your quote. So that obviously would save salespeople quite a lot of effort and give your customers all the spec sheets to hand. That would be a great feature. That is in our roadmap, but is not yet available. Obviously, you can attach particular PDFs like terms and conditions to the template at the moment. And when I'm generating a specific document, I can manually attach any files I want from the library quick and easily. But that feature to automatically add them based on the products that I've quoted will hopefully be coming in a few versions' time. Just in terms of the product images, so if I just go back to the settings, for Word documents that either you can leave as Word documents or you can turn to PDFs, there's quite a lot of settings when you're setting up the document table. So this is for setting up Word documents or PDF attachments. And there's a lot of quote tables. When you're setting those up, there's a lot of different options, and again, you can put this in full screen to make it easier, and you turn products images on here for that. With email quote tables, there's a lot less options. But if you search for product image, if I can type product image, there's a little tick box in the settings to turn product images on for email quotation tables. I much prefer PDFs attached to emails. I think that gives you a format that's quick and easy to send as a salesperson, but gives customers what they really want, which I think is an actual quotation document generally. And as I say, we've got more flexible options for that as well. Okay, so again, fairly whirlwind tour through that, but hopefully give you a flavor of some of the options that you can configure, the different output types that you might achieve in your document templates. Okay, so what I now want to move on to is some new functionality we've got around quotation acceptance. It's all well and good sending out a quotation to a customer and having sent a nice PDF to them, but what you don't want is some kind of vague order confirmation where the customer sent you an email that sounds like they might have placed an order, but you're not really sure what they have, or maybe they sent you an order but didn't give you an order number. What you really want is for the customer to process their own order. They've got the quotation, they've seen the prices, and hopefully if they're happy with that and it matches what they're expecting, what you'd really like is for them to place that order and accept that quotation themselves. So that's exactly what we've built. This is a new feature. It's in preview at the moment, and you'll need to be on the latest version to get these features. In the very latest version, there's some new functionality. So in the previous version, we built some branding options for the customer portal, and there's more of those that now work in the very latest version. And there are some more features coming for this, which I'll talk about in a second. So let's have a look at this. What is it and how does it work? So I'm now going to send this quotation again, but I'm going to choose a different template that I've got set up, which is the email quote cover with the approval workflow. And basically, this is the same email template, except that I've added the authorization and acceptance links in it. So I'm just going to send this, and then we'll see what it looks like and what it does. So again, it generates the PDFs and sends this email out to the customer. And if I go back to my inbox and refresh this, you'll see that there's a second email that's come in. I should just say, because it was a question that was asked in our ideas portal recently, you will see that there's the quotation version number, then there's a quotation number, and then there's a /2/3. That is the version number that's automatically incremented every time a quotation is sent out. You can actually change the version number manually if you want to, but it's incremented every time it's sent out. And that just allows you to kind of reference that different version if the customer asks a question, you're not sure which one it was. But this email that's been sent out, it's got the same attachments to it, but it's now got accept approve or reject buttons to approve this quotation. Obviously, if I click reject, it'll reject it, and there's a little box where I can give a rejection reason. If the customer does that, the quotation is rejected, but the email with any reasons is then sent to the salesperson who sent the quotation out in order to tell them it's been rejected. So hopefully they can then do something to follow it up, improve the pricing or whatever is necessary. If the customer clicks approve, then it brings up a little portal where the customer can put in their purchase order number. And you'll see this says it's optional. There are some settings around that, which I'll show you in a second. And if the customer then approves this, it will then confirm that sales order within the system. Now, my demo system is not actually connected up to any kind of ERP or inventory management system, so I'm not going to click that. But that would automatically confirm the order into my Unleashed, my Sin7, whatever. If it's able to do so, it will automatically post that in and it will be ready to go. If it can't post it in automatically for whatever reason, then it will obviously still accept it as far as the customer is concerned, but it will email the salesperson to tell them they need to follow up and take some other action. A good example of that might be if this is a new customer, they don't yet have an account in Unleashed, then the salesperson might need to go through the process of just confirming that, creating the account, and then finalizing the order confirmation. But either way, the salesperson will get notified that they need to take action on this quotation by email. And as far as the customer is concerned, they have processed their quotation. So you'll see if I click approve, it'll go through. It'll say, thank you for approving the quotation. I'll come back here and refresh this. You'll see that this actually hasn't confirmed all the way through because it's not connected to an inventory management system. If we go to the settings, first of all, if I look at the email templates, and we look at this workflow template, if I go to the settings, you can see this has got the authorization buttons. If I just come out of that a second and go to this one that doesn't, and I go to edit this, you can see that if I want to put that in, I might just create a bit of space for it. And then if I scroll to the bottom, sorry, down here in this box with additional data, you can see that there are some authorization buttons. and I could just add that in, and then it will automatically add those into my document template. A couple of further settings around that. There are some options to make the order reference mandatory or optional for your system. So if I make this mandatory, so I enable the option to require customer order references, then throughout the whole system, purchase order references will become mandatory. And salespeople, customers won't be able to confirm a sales order without entering a purchase order. So if your policy is to always require a purchase order in order to purchase order reference in order to make getting payments easier, then you can just enable this, and that will now be turned on system-wide. That's a brand new option we've got. That's pretty broad, and we'll literally turn it on in every scenario. And if that's your policy, that's great. But it might be that this isn't your policy, but it is the policy of some of your bigger customers, where they won't pay or they'll make payment difficult for you if you aren't able to supply them with a proper purchase order reference. And if that's the case, if it's customer by customer policy, then you don't want to enable this system-wide, but you will want to turn it on a company by company basis by using the require customer order reference field. That's an optional field. You'll need to customize it in. And again, we can help you to do that, and we've got some documentation on that. But if you customize that in, then customer by customer, you can turn this on. And then whenever they're processing that order, they will need an order reference when other customers won't. There's then some other options which I'm not going to get into in a great deal, which are all to do with budgets and authorizations. So I'll just very briefly cover this. So you can turn on budgets and authorizations. Again, this is in preview, and a lot of the features in preview will be, when they're made available to everybody at no extra cost. But some preview items may have an additional cost associated with them when they come in our preview. And I should just say that budgets and authorizations is one of those that's likely to have an additional cost. But this does allow you to then set up certain customers as having budgets, so they've got a spend limit of £1,000 a month, and certain employees within that customers can then have more specific budgets within that. So this employee can spend £200 a month or £200 per order, and then you can even have an authorization workflow for that customer specifically. Whereas somebody tries to place an order that is beyond their spend limit, it then automatically gets escalated to one of their colleagues who can then authorize that on their behalf. So, some pretty advanced and complicated functionality there, all designed to automate that process of getting to an order and having a customer do all the hard work. Which sounds like you're kind of making it harder for them, but actually, in reality, you're making it easier for them and easier for you, which is, the perfect scenario. So the final thing I just want to show you in the settings is if you want to get to the branding options for that portal that I showed you, the easiest way to get to that is if you go to your operating company. So most of you will only have one operating company. You can have more than one. So if you are running more than one company within the CRM system, the same CRM system, perhaps you've got an XYZ Limited UK and an XYZ Limited Ireland, XYZ Limited Australia, and they're separate legal entities. You can either run multiple CRM systems in total isolation for them, with separate, completely separate workspaces for them, or you can run one CRM system with multiple operating companies within it. Either way, you can come to your operating companies, and the branding is within each operating company, because each company you would have might have a different logo and might have different branding. And here I can set the primary colors for my my portal. So I can set a primary color with any kind of internet color. You'll need to kind of know what your color codes are. We can Google them, and you can put an accent color in, which will give you this kind of background color and the green color. And you can also upload your logo, which will then appear in the top of the portal. So, as I say, that's a brand new feature, really designed to get you much quicker to an order, but also avoid you having a vague order, you know, that kind of dreaded email from the customer where you've got the email and you're not sure whether it's a confirmation or not, and you then have to ring them and double check that it is. In terms of processing the order, this should be reasonably straightforward. But there's actually a whole load more options that we might get into. There's order confirmation pop-up options, which I've covered in a previous webinar, and I'm not going to get into here, but lots more options you can get into. Delivery charges, where you can set up manual or pre-configured delivery charges. We've talked about the mandatory optional purchase order references already, which are then enforced through the portal. But are also enforced through the pop-up, so that you can make sure that employees are also setting purchase orders. There's options to set custom quotation validations. You can create accounts on the fly for new customers. We've talked about product creation, and obviously, if your ERP system is configured so that these products are created when the order's confirmed, then that'll happen at this point. If your ERP is set up so that it automatically creates the products earlier on, they'll already be there. Credit card payments are obviously an increasing thing that people like to use to take payment with order. And you can set up Stripe integration within the CRM. And again, we've got options for that. I'll talk about some of the things that we're planning in a minute. But certainly the option for credit card payments through the portal when customers are confirming their sales orders is one of those that we're considering. And I talked earlier about special equipment processing that might happen at the point of order. Now, I don't have time to get into these in this webinar, but as I say, we've covered many of these in previous webinars. And if you're interested in these things, then you can talk in the chat, and we can cover these in a kind of follow-up. The final thing I do want to cover, though, is notification emails. So there's customer order confirmation emails. That's something we've had for quite a long time. That's been updated with an extra option where you can set up the system to send that confirmation either when the order is confirmed within the CRM or when it's confirmed actually into the ERP system. In most cases, it won't make any difference which you do there. But if, for instance, a new customer confirms an order and they don't have an account yet in Unleashed or within Sin7 or in Xero, then there can be a delay between them confirming the order and you posting that into Xero or Unleashed or whatever. And so you might need to think a little bit about when you want the notification to go out. So that's just a simple option we've added to that order confirmation. One thing I would say is that you don't, in that automated order confirmation, if I'll just quickly look at that setting. I'll just show you it very briefly. We'll go to settings. And if I go to order, so let's just have a quick look at the order confirmation email. So as I say, there is a setting here where you can just choose which document template to automatically send out as an order confirmation, and that will automatically send it out to the customer. And as I say, this new option allows you to decide when that happens. I should say, if you use this automatic process, then it won't at the moment include any attachments to that order confirmation. That is a limitation of this feature. If that's important to you, you can vote for that in our ideas portal. Obviously, the other thing that you can do, if you want to send a manual order confirmation, and I know this was a question, Jess, in the lead up, you can, of course, simply send an email out and choose a template, which is your order confirmation template, and doing it manually that way will include the PDFs. I just return to the PowerPoint. The other new option that's been significantly updated is the internal notification when a new order is processed. So you can enable this so that you automatically get notified when an order is confirmed, and you can notify multiple employees if you want this to happen, and you can set that to notify on orders or just CMS orders, so just orders through our e-commerce system, or for most of us here on the CRM, we'll want to set this to all orders, so they'll get notified when a CRM order is placed as well. So as I say, we're already working on a lot of updates to this. Obviously, lots of things I've shown you here are new anyway, but there's lots more things that we're working on. I know that we're working on some integration to the Unleashed delivery methods and delivery instructions. I know that we'd like to release a feature where the product library files are automatically attached to email quotes based on the products that you've included in that quotation. We've talked about Stripe and credit card payments via the portal when the customer is confirming their own quote. Perhaps allowing the customer to select their own delivery charges. So if you've got multiple valid delivery charges for next day, you know, before 9 a.m. or next week, then you actually might want the customer to choose that at checkout. Being able to show the full quote table with all the different items on it, not just in the email that was being sent out. Perhaps automated workflow for chasing the emails, chasing the customer to place that order, so that automatically it might remind the customer they haven't confirmed their quote a couple of days later. And perhaps automated reminders to the sales team to chase up their quotes as well. And we'd love your feedback on these suggestions or any others. You can log these ideas or vote for them, or log other ideas at ideas.prospect365.com. And obviously, as we release these updates, Jess and her team provide updates through the CRM system in the What's New, and you can get to that. If I just run this graphic again, you can get to that from the help menu, or by going to what'snew.prospect365.com. Okay. Hopefully, despite me having to rush through a few of those things, just so much to cover, so many great features to try and help you with that workflow. We're certainly going to follow up some of the questions individually, but Jess, are there any questions worth following up in?
Yeah, there's a couple that have come through. Thank you to those that have put those in the chat. So one challenge that someone sort of mentioned is how to resend order confirmations to a different email address, and just how that works in Prospect. I guess, for example, if the order confirmation doesn't go to the right place, it needs to go to the person. Yeah, so
if you set up the automatic order confirmation I showed you in the settings, that will automatically go to the same person who you sent the quotation to. The person in the in the data hierarchy the person who the quotation was under. If you need it to go to a different person, then it won't automatically send that out to a different person, although certainly that is a feature we could look into if that was a popular feature, to perhaps define the person who should receive order confirmations at the customer. But if you just want to send resend an order confirmation or send out a specific order confirmation, if you reload the quotation, click send email. In the top of you can choose the template obviously, but at the top you can actually add another email address in, choose an email address from the CRM or type one in, or add a CC or a BCC option, and then you can resend, use the same order confirmation template, and then you can resend that out to a specific email address if that's useful for your customer.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Another one that was raised was being able to see cost of products, seeing margin in real time, and seeing sales commission for the sales rep making the quote.
Okay.
For those you mentioned would be kind of a future development plan for us.
Yeah, so I mean, if I actually go back to the quotation spread just to try and answer that, perhaps as best I can. So first of all, on each line, if you go to the information panel, there is the price, the cost price, the margin, the discount, calculated per line. Although there's some fields that you can turn on as editable nice and easily through the settings, it is also possible to add some more fields to this table. So if you wanted to show some things like the margin, not everything, but some of those you can add by choosing additional fields and literally displaying them in this table automatically as you go. There's also the analysis panel here, which will give me a summary of the cost, the margin percentage, the unit margin, and the markup, and then also the total cost and the total margin for my quotation in the analysis. And I know that a couple of people have asked for the margin percentage to be added to this screen. So we've got the actual gross margin of the quote, but if you want the margin percentage, that can be added on here as well. And I think there's an idea already logged that you can vote on in the idea portal for that. If there's something else that you're after, then log that in the ideas portal and we'll certainly look into it. One thing I should also say is that it is also possible to come up with custom validation rules for a quotation. I talked about validating the quotation to make sure that there's a purchase order reference, something that is a chargeable extra, so it will have some cost associated with it, but it is possible to set up some custom validation rules so that you can't, for instance, send out a quotation or confirm an order with less than X margin on it, or even less than X margin if it contains this product, or if it's for that kind of customer. You know, those can get quite complicated, or they can be as simple as you want them to be.
Okay, and then the final one was about finding it difficult to take sort of manual payments a lot. So I think you touched on that, Andy, as well, that we're considering kind of putting that as part of the customer portal, being able to take payments electronically a little bit easier.
Yes, so if you do want to take a payment when you're processing the order, you can go to the card payments and connect up a Stripe account, and then this will allow me to take payments over the phone. But as you pointed out there, certainly one of the features that I'm sure will appear in our ideas portal and will be popular when it goes in there, as people start to use the approval buttons and the customer portal, and have customers check out a quotation and approve the quotation through the portal. If you are using credit cards, to be able to ask the customer for credit card payments at that stage would, of course, be very useful. A few things for us to figure out. For instance, on what basis do we ask for the credit card details? Is it an optional thing? Is it something that you can make mandatory for this order, or mandatory for this customer, or mandatory for certain types of orders and that kind of thing? So a few things for us to figure out, and certainly anybody who's got any input on that will be welcome. But certainly that's something we'll look to add in the not too distant future.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all the questions that have come through so far. But obviously, please just drop us an email if you've got any questions off the back of this. We'll get back to you on those.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, any questions, ideas, put them in our ideas portal, send them through as a follow-up to this. And we'd love to hear your feedback on all these different features.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.